Good morning and welcome to workshop number 3. We have Literacy, Leadership, What, Why, How, K-12 with Teya, Cotter, and Julia Reynolds. I'm so excited to introduce these speakers to you today. Julia Reynolds is an Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction for Allendale Public Schools in Allendale, Michigan. And Teya Cotter has been the elementary principal of North Oakview Elementary in Northview Public Schools in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm going to let them introduce themselves a little better to you, and I'm going to toss it over to them. So enjoy this wonderful session.
Good morning. Welcome.
Yes, and we are so excited to be together and to talk with you about just some really fun ideas about literacy leadership and just share some stuff, but also really curious for you to share things. So we'll show you on Twitter where you can post some things and be able to share your wonderful ideas too.
So Julie and I have been working together for the last 8 years, both as colleagues and friends. We were together here in Northview for 6 years. And sad to see her go, but glad to be connected in other ways. We're also moms, and we're just very glad to connect with all of you today to talk about literacy leadership.
Yeah, it's just wonderful to be back together and share some great things. So, all right, here we go. Let me figure out this technology, but we will do it. All right, first of all, just to remind you, the EdCollabGathering, the hashtag to use that, the EdCollabGathering, and then do a space and do number 3 if you want to specifically talk about our session. And then you have both of our Twitter handles, at Teya Cotter and at JMR Literacy. If there's anything you want to specifically ask us or shout out. And as we said too, please feel free to share your ideas too, because I think it will be just a wonderful conversation. A little odd because we can't see each other, but we'll be able to share ideas in that format.
So today we're going to talk about the what, why, and how of literacy leadership. And this is the framework for our presentation. On the left, it's really about committing to ourselves and the commitment we have as literacy leaders to read and write and network and reflect.
Yeah, and then on the right side, what you see are really things that we have as our commitment to and for others. And so we'll talk about things that you prioritize that are so important, because what you prioritize shows what you value. We'll talk about ideas for empowering different groups of people and how exciting that can be, and then leading to engaging and other ideas to just get that excitement about literacy. And then finally, we'll talk about just the whole idea to celebrate and all the fun that you can have with what you're doing. So I think with that, we're
going to start off talking with you first about reading, and as literacy leaders, how important it is to read for a variety of reasons. It's really important to read for enjoyment, read to lead, read to grow, and read to share with others. So that's what we're going to focus on today for the first part. And we're going to start off with read to enjoy. For me, I think the really big thing that I love to do as an elementary principal is to connect with kids at school. And so I look to my teacher librarian, shout out to Carrie Davies for all she does. And I use her as a great mentor for me as far as finding text to connect with my students. And so here are some books that I've read recently. The War That Saved My Life, Wonder. I use 365 Days of Wonder each week on my announcements as well for mindfulness and Mindful Monday messages. Right now at home, I'm also reading to be a mom. And so my kids and I are reading Trumpet of the Swan, and also to grow as a mom. Bottom left-hand corner, you'll see a picture of Hands-Free Mama. That's just a book about making sure that technology doesn't take over your life, and that you're reading for both to learn and grow, but also to enjoy. And so I feel like I continue to do that. My up and coming book that I want to read because the student said I had to is Refugee.
Yeah, and you'll see also, I'm going to give a shout out to my LMF book club. There's award winners listed on the right side, and you'll see that those are ones, my book club, we get together, we choose different books to read. So we just recently read all the Newbery and Prince Award winners, the Caldecott winner, the honor books. And so you'll see that. And then also just that stack of books that as a leader, you want to enjoy reading and model that. And so that was a spring break reading picture that I put on Twitter at one time to show people.
Both of us, going back to that quick, also too, during vacations, you'll see that stack of book. As I head into Christmas break or spring break, I pick out all the books that I want to read, and I never get to all of them, but I do get to a lot of them.
All right. And then also it's important to read to lead. And so to have different ideas on whether it's about leadership or about instructional practices, but you want to really, have that kind of purpose for reading.
So over on the left, Daring Greatly, this is a Brene Brown book. If you haven't been watching her on YouTube, you need to check out Brene Brown. It's really about growing yourself as a leader. Also, six thinking hats. This is to help us. Our job in education is really spread across so many different things, and it's really hard to not multitask with everything. So this is a way to help us put on our one individual hat and make sure that we are narrowing in on the important things like creativity and ideas. Right now, my teachers and I, we've been working on guided reading instructions. So you'll see Jan Richardson. This is a framework for setting up your guided reading instruction. And we've been working through this professionally. Mindset for Learning, our whole school is using that really to set kids up for success with making sure that they have these traits for learning: flexibility, optimism, perseverance. And there's just so many great books out there. I can't say enough good things about Jennifer Saravallo and her work. And as a leader, it's really important that you are up and coming on what teachers and students need to be doing.
Yeah, and you'll see that, as Teya said, this isn't an all-encompassing list. It's not everything. There's so many great books, but that balance between reading books about leadership, but also reading books about instructional practices. You want to be reading what your teachers are reading. I know for myself as a district administrator, really helping to support the principals I work with. And so reading what they're reading so we can have conversations. All of that is huge in terms of just continuing yourself as a reader. We also believe with reading, the purpose is for reading to grow. And so there's so many different ways that you can be just growing yourself as a leader. And so a couple of things we put out there. Twitter, of course. Daily, you can be reading different things that people write on Twitter.
I don't always have time for Twitter.
Right. Teya and I go back and forth. Like, I use Twitter a lot. She doesn't necessarily as much, but there's also blog posts. We put a couple of the professional organizations, NCTE and ILA, that there's blog posts and different briefs that are written. The EdCollabGathering has different blog posts that are available that you can read those. And then, of course, the Nerdy Book Club is another one where there's daily posts, whether it's about books or about leadership or about instructional ideas, but so many great ways that you can continue to grow.
Yeah, and me as a mom and a principal and a wife, it's really hard to manage it all. So I also look for reading to grow in all of those roles. So one of the great Facebook pages that I like is Mom as Principals. It's just a reality check that this is what's going on in your life and how do you manage it all and what good ideas do you have to narrow things down for you. Also, Marshall Memo is a great resource for best practice. And it really just gives some weekly headlines of things that you can quick read to feel like you're in the know.
And finally, this idea is with all the reading you're doing, you want to make sure you're reading to share. And so on the left, Will Lepick, who's an assistant principal at Kent City Elementary, he posts right outside his office the books that he's reading. Mrs. Taylor's a teacher in his building, and she also, will put out there what books she's reading, so that's being shared. And so people can see that you're modeling that you're a reader.
And so also on the right is a picture of Mrs. Davies, our teacher librarian, and she posts pictures of the covers of her books that she's read for the whole year. She also has weekly updates, and then the hashtag is North Oakview Reads. This is our school hashtag. Both our parents and our students and our teachers can get in there and showcase what they're reading. And it's super exciting to be able to celebrate what people are reading and really just focus in. I'll show you some pictures of that later. I'm super excited to share that with you, our North Oakview community.
Yeah, so we could go on and on and on about reading, but that's just a foundational piece for ourselves and what we can do for others to have that as a foundational piece. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about writing, which is our next piece, our commitment. And so as a writer, certainly you want to be reading every day, but you want to be writing every day. And so one part of writing could be personal writing. Just, on the left is a picture of my journal where every day I'm writing things. I do it when I'm drinking my coffee in the morning. I'll do it before I go to bed, just writing good things that have been happening, different things going on in my life. Those are ways that you can just get that practice in, because again, it's helping you model that you're a writer, but then also help you learn about what writing practices, what that feels like to be asked to write as your teachers are teaching that.
And personally, for me, I don't have a ton of time to write. And so it is really about making the most of my writing time. And so for me, it's reflecting on some things, maybe a quick jot in my journal about something that I noticed in the building that day that I need to ponder and think about more. Also, just really trying to focus on the positive things that are happening in your life. Sometimes, especially in education, we get bogged down with all the politics and things that are coming at us. And so a lot of my teachers were challenged this year with a blessings jar or a thankful jar. Put it in your house, put it in your office, put it in your classroom to focus on the positive as things come up. I think it's just really great to be able to make sure that we're thinking of that. And then on New Year's Eve, open that jar up and go back and reflect on those things that you're thankful for or that were such blessings to you.
And then Kate Messner every summer does an online writers workshop for teachers and certainly administrators can take part in that. And so I've done that the last 2 summers. It's called Teachers Write. So you could just Google that and find it and sign up. And they really model a workshop format. So you get a chance to write on your own, but to practice that. And then finally, the National Writing Project, we've in different districts I've worked in really partnered with the affiliate groups. And so the Lake Michigan Writing Project came over to Northview when I was here, and we did 5 different Saturdays in the spring, and teachers came together, teachers as writers, and I was there and principals were there, and we were all writing together and really enjoying that. Then we also, with writing, not only personal writing, but then professional writing, and thinking of all the ways that you can use writing as a tool to showcase the great things that are happening in your schools. And so on the left, Andy Secor, who's a principal in Hudsonville Public Schools, he often on Facebook will share, he'll either share the post that the school put, or he will go ahead and write his own post. And so Facebook's a great venue to be able to share that. Also in the center, Bernard Pugh, who's a principal, I work with him in Allendale Public Schools, he constantly, daily, multiple posts about the wonderful things happening in his school. And so Twitter is a wonderful format to do that professional writing. And it's short, so you can get a couple quick things in there, and just the power of how that can be shared and shared.
One thing that's not mentioned on too here is writing for grants. There is a deficit of funding. And so it is important to be able to advocate for yourself and your school about things that you need. So also writing grants. Don't hesitate to get it out there and showcase what you're hoping to be able to do, and see if you can get that money.
And then I've given just a couple different ideas for more longer posts. So the Ed Collaborative, NCTE, ILA, those are options where you could write blog posts about things that are happening. And then the Nerdy Book Club is another venue. So I gave just a couple screenshots of blog posts that I've written. And then one I did with Karen Opperly, who was a reading specialist in Northview with me, just sharing things about kids and reading and summer reading and efforts. And so again, just ways to get those good ideas out.
The last one for writing professionally is really about, as principals, as leaders in your district, it's really important that you're showcasing things that are happening. So we have a Wildcat Weekly that goes out to parents every single week, and it has activities that are happening. We take pictures and images, give descriptions of learning that's happening in the classroom, also a school website that connects to that Wildcat Weekly. Also staff updates. Each week I send staff updates out, and I talk about best practice and really help teachers hone in on what they need to be thinking about for the next week and the months to come.
All right. So we so far have talked about both reading and writing, and just saying these are huge commitments for us. Now we're going to get into more the people side of it, because we both talk about just how isolating this can be. You might be the only curriculum person in a district, or you're the one elementary principal, or your other colleagues are off in different buildings. So how often do you get to be together? So we'll go ahead and show you. our next commitment, which is networking.
You're doing a great job with tech.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. All right. So first of all, we're just talking about networking with different groups. And so finding what those groups are, who the people are who are going to support you. So on the left, that's a group, Carla Akins, who's an assistant superintendent in Hudsonville Public Schools. And then Steve Seward, who works for MASSP as one of the associate directors. The three of us at one time were curriculum directors in districts, and we got together often to support each other. We called ourselves the LMFs, the like-minded friends, because we could really support each other and then also challenge each other in our thinking.
And I just think that, as Julia said, it can be isolating in our jobs. So creating opportunities intentionally for yourself to network with others. The elementary principals and I, we've committed to getting away from our buildings and our community, going out to Traverse City each year for the MEMSBA conference, connecting with other principals in our ISD, even connecting outside of our state. I have some principals that I kind of are my go-tos to make sure that I'm checking myself. Michigan, we're working on things. Other states are working on things. So where are we moving in the right direction together? So I think that's really important to continue to network with each other in a variety of ways.
And it's the professional organizations, NCTE, ILA, MEMSBA, ASCD. I mean, there's so many great ways that you can build that network, and you can do it virtually, but then also the different conferences when they have meetings and conferences that you can attend. Also, Nerd Camp. Michigan is the home of the original Nerd Camp Donalyn Miller and Colby Sharp, Colby's a teacher in Parma, Michigan. They put that together. So every July, thousands of educators go to Parma, Michigan, and come together and talk about literacy. And now there are nerd camps that are being replicated all over the country. And so I know that it has really helped so people can feel that power of a network and getting together.
And I can't say enough about Emily Arrow. She's coming to Nerd Camp this year on Sunday night. She's going to be putting on a concert. She is a kid-lit musical artist. She takes kids' books and makes songs out of it. And our students here at Northview have really enjoyed her. So if you don't know about Emily Arrow, just find her and you'll really learn a lot about kids' books through her. Also, I think it's really important to mention the essential practices in early and elementary literacy. This is a great way that a lot of us are networking right now to really grow as a state, and wherever you are, the practices that need to be in classrooms for early literacy. And so here are some links and the document that we're using to really make sure that as we're saying, and that the kids are getting their minimal level of care and best practice, that everyone has to be doing these things to grow their kids as readers.
And then the affiliate groups, that was an example, but that's done at the ISD level. That I'm in Ottawa County ISD and Teya's in Kent County ISD, and the two of us have great opportunities to get together with people with like jobs. And so I work once a month, get together with the curriculum directors in the county, and we talk about just different challenges that we're facing and different ideas on how we're implementing different curriculum initiatives. And then Teya has an elementary principal group where they talk about those essential practices and really go deep on what that looks like in elementary classrooms. But then also middle school principals, high school principals, Title I directors. I mean, there's lots of different opportunities for people to get together. And so that face-to-face networking is really. And then finally, just on the right, there's a couple of examples: the Book Club, Summer Book Club, the Michigan Reading Association, Instructional Coaching Community. Those are Facebook groups. And so there's different ways that you can get together and just talk virtually and post questions, and people share ideas for you. So we're just trying to show you the variety of ways that you can expand that network for yourself.
And the last section of our commitment to ourselves for literacy leadership is sorry, I missed that.
Yeah,
one.
That's all right.
Yeah.
So the network with the professional, this idea of a professional learning network, Troy Hicks out of Central Michigan, he did a wonderful Twitter chat recently about how are you growing your PLN and who's in your PLN and who's not in your PLN, but you could have in your PLN. So I gave you just a couple pictures and Twitter handles of some wonderful people, both district leaders and college professors and principals who are doing amazing stuff with literacy with kids. That you can just follow them on Twitter and be able to outreach to them and share things. And so that's such a huge piece of just continuing that for yourself.
Right, and the last one is about reflecting. A commitment to ourselves is really about how we reflect, how we listen, how we look at data, how we take time for ourselves, and how we show gratitude. So there's a lot of different ways to reflect. We can learn from different places in our schools, from students, from teachers, from principals, from families, community members. Really, there's so many ways as you look around and take time to just notice and be mindful of what's all around us.
Yeah, and Joellen McCarthy, who's in New Jersey, I recently learned this whole idea from her about looking at the halls and the walls, because it's so important. Like, what does that tell you about your school or your district office? Do you see kindness? Do you see joy? Do you see celebrations? And so this whole idea of taking that time to listen is huge to help you as a leader reflect.
And looking at data, I think it's really important that we not only look at numbers, but also look at students and practices, looking at assessments, making sure that we are continuing to monitor and think about what we're doing and that it is best practice. And it's not, we want to try and dig deeper and continue and maintain things, but we also just need to slow down in order to make sure it's best practice.
Right. And we wanted to say, like, data is not just a number. It's not just a test score. That is so limiting. So that's why that whole idea of the kid watching, the observations, that's also data. So it's huge to expand that. And I love, from a district leadership perspective, to really embrace that with the principals I work with, and then we share that with teachers, and we all talk about that there's so much more than just a test score on how we want to know kids and really reflect on what's happening.
We've been talking a lot about that with students too, and that kids aren't just a number. It's really about their behaviors and their strategies. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's also important to take time for you. As leaders, you're so busy. So the reflection piece is big. The Happiness Advantage talks about that there are practices that you should do every day to really be a happy leader, that you should journal, that you should exercise, and be mindful. So making sure that you do those things. The next slide too, making sure that you're being kind. And I write letters to my staff and send them home to their mailboxes so that they're getting something at home of things that I've noticed in their practices that are benefiting kids. So it's really about us taking time to show gratitude and also just be gracious with yourself.
Yeah. So if we just go back and think about the things that we've just shared with you, and as we said, those were the things that were our commitment to and for ourselves, that we really say for ourselves, to be a reader, to be a writer, to really commit yourself to building that network, and then taking that time to reflect. That's huge, to sit back and say, okay, what's happening and what are we seeing, and breathing, that's just important, taking that time to breathe, and how important that is.
I don't know if I'm breathing right now.
Yeah, I know, we're both like, but we're
first time.
Yeah, so we're gonna move into now our commitment for others, and we're mindful of time, so we're gonna be sharing you lots of ideas, and certainly as we're going through this, please keep sharing, share on Twitter, put things out there, because we have certain things we can share. We don't have a lot of time, but we will want you to keep this conversation going. So we'll go.
We're already halfway through.
We are, I know. Okay, so all right.
So our next section is about our commitment to others, and we're going to be talking about how we prioritize, empower, engage, and celebrate. So we're just going to dig right into that.
Right. And with prioritize, this is something that several years ago, when I was working in Northview, the superintendent, Mike Pasquette, he and I sat down and really talked about prioritizing where we were spending our money, what was important, because what you prioritize for that is huge in showing what you value. And so at that time, we really prioritized helping teachers build classroom libraries. We knew that teachers were doing so much in terms of just buying their own books and, spending their own money. And so we really focused. We gave teachers $500. I mean, every teacher got that in terms of, being able to spend on their classroom library. We did $1,000 one year. New teachers or teachers new to a grade level were given, several thousands of dollars to build that classroom library. So we're showing you different pictures of just beautiful classroom libraries. And a lot of it has been done by teachers spending their own money, because we know that's not the norm everywhere. But it's such a commitment. And if you prioritize that, it is so amazing what can happen.
We also realize in big buildings, it's really hard to build classroom libraries all encompassing of all the levels. So having a leveled library where you can go to get 6 copies of books to do small group instruction, and you can trade them in and out on any day. It's really important to also have that availability, because there are kids at all levels, well above and below in your classroom, that you need to meet their needs.
Well, and this is the classroom of Sherry Steelman, who is a high school English teacher in Northview. And her room is breathtaking. I mean, look at this.
Like a bookstore.
Yeah, it is just fabulous. But she sees over 100 kids a day. And so just to have the books available for them and, have that is huge.
I just love how her titles are facing out too.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And then this is an example of more of that leveled book room, and where teachers can get different books, but again, prioritizing that. And also just to think about with the books, it's not just here's the money, go buy books, but it's also those conversations about the intentionality of what books you're going to buy, that we want a whole variety of books, and we want to be mindful that children are seeing themselves in the books that they're reading. So it's really deep conversations that you can have both at a building level and a district level on, if we've prioritized this, then what are we actually going to be purchasing?
And I have to just say that one of the things we've struggled with is getting books low enough, not cost, but the level, and having a variety that are really high quality. And recently, literacy footprint kits. If you haven't heard about literacy footprint kits, they're excellent. And we've been utilizing those with our both DK and kindergarten classrooms, and they continue on up. They're just launching the 4th grade one. So I think that those are a great resource right now for students too.
Another thing to do is to really prioritize the professional learning, and think about that. If you're going to have funding dedicated to this, finding those literacy rock stars to be able to come and work with your teachers, and to be supporting just the learning, both for the teachers, but then also for you as leaders. And so this is an example of just a few people who we personally know, because we were able in Northview to have them actually come to our district and work with teachers and spend time here. But there's more. We know there's more really wonderful people out here. I just know for a fact, like Penny Kittle was just working with the middle school and high school teachers that I work with now in Allendale yesterday. She was presenting, and the teachers I work with, they were able to pick her up from the airport and drive her to the workshop and drive her back to the airport. So just really helping to support those connections and to see that, because the professional learning is huge, but it's how do you do that? How do you fund that? How do you make that happen? I know both I had showed you Steve and Carla, Steve Seward and Carla Akins, who were 2 curriculum directors I worked with. The 3 of us used to come together and have all 3 of our groups of teachers together, because then we could split the cost of somebody coming in and to share those expenses. And so you can be creative on what that looks like, and just think differently. But I think that power, that priority, thinking what that means is huge.
I just emailed Christy Mraz and said, can you come back? We need you. More play workshop.
Yeah. So I think there's, just so much. It's worth a conversation. When we said books and professional learning, there could be other things that you're prioritizing, but what is that? What do you value, and what's important to you? And both at a building level and at district level, when you can work in sync together, that's what was so fun when we were working together, is just, we believed in that strongly together. And so it was amazing with our teachers, what we are able to accomplish.
And really, that's what we're talking about next, is empowering others, and how we can empower teachers, students, families, and our community. All of those things help us lead literacy in so many different ways. And so our first one we want to talk about is teachers.
Yeah, and how do we really commit to empowering teachers and setting up conditions and situations where we can get out of the way and let them do the work, and really have that time. So we have different pictures of examples of teachers planning together and looking at data and, making decisions and learning things and trying things out, and just how important that is to provide that and help them feel that they can and be the ones to really lead where they're going with their instruction and where they're going with their students.
Yeah, and time, making sure that teachers have that time to get up in front of a variety of audiences. These are some teachers in the top middle, that's literacy night, and just getting teachers to come at different times and different audiences to present about their literacy practices and share their knowledge with others. It's just so important to tap into that.
And you'll see, because here it's teachers trying things, small group instruction, read alouds, just different, close reading, comparing text. There's just things that, again, empowering teachers to provide conditions where they can try things and feel it's okay to take a risk and to see how something goes, and then be able to discuss it.
And one of the challenges in education is finding time, and how do you create those long chunks of time for deep work? And so one of the things we are trying this year is student community enrichment experiences, where the students are around the building, provided with educational experiences. Here we have the Grand Rapids Art Museum that's come to us. Our middle school students collaborated and put on a play experience for our whole building at once. These are students participating in some STEM projects, also some athletic things. And while that's happening, teachers had a chunk of time, 2 hours, to work on a problem of practice that they identified for the entire year. And so they had 5 or 6 different meeting times this year to really narrow in on one thing that they identified to help students increase achievement.
All right. And then there's also this with Empower, to empower students and to really, help them feel that they're the ones, in charge of their learning and can feel so good about what they're doing. So you have some pictures here on the left. It's a 3rd grade student reading to a kindergarten student. So it's reading buddies. So they were able to come together, and the 3rd grade students that I'm working with, they love being able to pick a book and share it with their kindergarten buddy. And they're really mindful about, is this the book that she would like, or is he going to be, he'd already read this book, so here's another one by this author. And so you see just some really great conversations and thinking about just doing the best for their buddy.
In the middle and the right pictures are our students at North Oakview, and they are in flex time. Our teacher librarian opens the library up when there is not a class, before and after school, at lunches, on a rotating schedule, so that grade level students can come in and find more quiet reading time, just to continue to build that engagement and whisper different books to kids. Thanks, Donalyn.
And we can't, say enough just about the role with teacher librarians. So Carrie Davies and Kurt Stroh, who are fabulous teacher librarians in Northview, such a great example of empowering students, where they go through a mock Newbery unit, and students read different books, and they come together and they vote and they Skype with authors, and they, really debate, which book. And Kurt has wonderful blog posts. So if you find him on Twitter, go find his blog and see what he writes about this whole experience. But just the power of the students being so excited about taking on this role.
And bringing authors to your school too. Yeah. We
Yeah.
had Kelly DiPuccio this week, and just bringing those authors as real people to your students, empowering them to connect with authors and books.
And we also want to talk about empowering families and community, and providing those opportunities and conditions that families and community members can engage with your school and with your district. So
on the left, we have Watchdogs. It's dads of great students. It's really important to have men also in your building. So we have a dad a day that comes to the school. They do literacy with the students, math, and really just help students see men also as empowering them in education.
And then in the middle, you see an example of a family event where parents would come in and learn different strategies to work with their kids with reading and writing. And so this one, and we would call it Karen Opperly, who is, you can see her on the right. She's a literacy specialist at East Oakview and Northview for years. And she, just retired, but there was such a legacy she left. And what she did in the middle was, bring parents together and talk about bagels and books, or pizza and pages, depending on the time of day, and would teach a strategy. This is a way to read with your child and ask questions about the reading. And then the parents could try it. And then on the right is Karen standing next to the Free Little Library. We were able to get funding to put Free Little Libraries at every elementary in Northview. And I know there's Free Little Libraries all over the country, but such a great commitment for your community that they can have a place to go to get books and to share books, give books, and what the power of that is. So that's really where we focus so strongly, just our commitment to empowering, but then also our commitment to engaging, and how do we bring people along and excite them about the literacy work.
And so it's really important to engage our students in a variety of ways. So here in the middle is a picture of me. We had a light bulb lunch for our student leaders. And so this is like our student school improvement team, talking about our practices and what we can do to improve our schools.
Yeah, and you see Bernard Pugh, principal in Allendale, reading to classes. That's another way to engage kids when they see you as a leader coming in. And then down at the bottom, and it is an example in Northview, we mail books home every summer, every week during the summer to kindergarten students. So it's those little reading A to Z books, the little paper books that go in the mail, but how exciting that is for kids. This is just another way to engage kids by providing different events. Like Teya talked about Emily Arrow and how she did, sings with books, and so providing those opportunities and for kids to get involved with that.
Providing time over breaks for kids to get engaged with reading. We just had March's Reading Month. I'm sure a lot of you did some things with that. And this next week, I'm having a read out to celebrate reading outside on the front lawn, the kids that met their goals with their challenges.
And we want to engage teachers and really provide just really creative, fun ways for them to get excited about literacy.
And here on the left is a picture of our summer launch. Teachers come and showcase for students the books that they love and get them excited for summer reading and the activities that they've planned collaboratively with the district to connect with students all summer long. We'll show you some pictures of that coming up.
Now in the middle, Kent City Elementary, teachers picked a camping theme at the school, and then they made posters and put them all over the school with teachers reading, but doing it around that camping theme. And so it was just a fun way to get the teachers involved in that, and then have the kids see the teachers reading. And then on the right, Mary White Elementary School in Grand Haven, they have a motto in the district where it's read at homework tonight, read. And so they made t-shirts for teachers to have at a community picnic to wear. And so they were all celebrating just how excited they are about reading.
Also engaging our families. Here are different pictures on the left. I talked to you guys about that hashtag that we use for our school, North Oakview Reads. Here's a student that is at home reading, and he posted some pictures of that. In the middle are our literacy nights that we host. We also have literacy breakfast, and this was a theme night. These are actually me and my 3 kids. I have next week 3 5-year-olds at home, and so that night we came and we learned all about how-tos, and so it's really important to balance how you engage your families and give them practical strategies to become involved in literacy. On the right, we have a birthday book club where students get to buy a book for our school library and get a picture taken and have a placard in the book and celebrate with the school their gift to the school. And the bottom, this was over spring break. Students sent in them reading over the break and the different places that they read, and just engaging families in that literacy community.
And then also Allendale Evergreen Elementary recently did a book bingo night. And so this was the principal, spinning the numbers, and all the families that came and played bingo and won books, and the staff involvement, everybody doing this for the families. So really trying to find ways to engage them.
Engaging your community sometimes seems hard, but when you start to put the right people in the right place and empower your teacher leaders, they can really do some amazing things. So we have in Northview summer experiences called the Mobile Library. And this past summer, we brought it to a location 5 different times over the summer. So here was our first one. We were at the fire station, and we bring, as you can see in the middle picture, a whole collection of books that the kids can take. They usually take 6 to 10 books with them when they visit. Our Kent District Library in the top right picture, they come and they also provide resources and promote the literacy activities that they have. And really everybody coming together to learn some strategies, but just get excited about reading over the summer and to stay connected with literacy in the community.
Yeah, and Allendale down in the bottom right, the amazing reading bus. I couldn't believe when I started in Allendale, like, you have a bus like this? And it is just, they took all the seats out and put in shelving, and it is great. There are 6 to 8 weeks in the summer where every day there are books being driven all over the district. And so people can get books and have that engagement for the community. You also can provide different ways, the One and Only Ivan, that book was a one book, one community for Mary White Elementary. And so they got books and brought people in and gave them books and talked about it and did kind of a book club, had a couple different events where people could talk about what they were reading. Up at the top, you see just providing spaces for when people come into your building or into your district. Do they have a place to sit? Do they have books that they can read while they're waiting? And then Parma Elementary on the right, football players coming in, and you can do this anywhere, you know, bringing in community members to read to children. And that's a way to get your community engaged. Also in Northview, a couple years ago, we had a grant, a family literacy grant. So we did one book, one community with Marley and Me, but expanded that to go beyond just the book Marley and Me, which was really more for our high school students and our community members. Instead, we looked at all the different readers, and they were, you know, the different ways that people could engage at different age levels with Marley. And then we partnered with our district library in order to bring the author in. So John Grogan came in and did a community talk, and so people were able to hear that. And then finally, we're really mindful of time, but we want to talk about this Celebrate, this final thing that we commit to for others, to provide those opportunities to celebrate. So here's an example at Mary White Elementary in Grand Haven, where kids are reading superheroes. And so they're celebrating all the reading that they're doing and wearing costumes and being so excited about this. And then also just providing book tasting opportunities for kids where they can celebrate new books that they're going to read, and how to get engaged in something new that you're going to be looking at. And then on the right, it was kids doing skits about the books that they've read. And so being able to share those ideas. And then finally, Colby Sharp, who is a fifth grade teacher in Parma Elementary. He's one of the co-founders of the Nerdy Book Club. He edited and collaborated for a book called The Creativity Project. So this was a great celebration at Parma Elementary, where they celebrated a teacher as an author, his book birthday. When that came out, all the kids got the books, and Colby signed the books, and they really were excited about what this meant for them. And then finally, just dressing up as book characters and having different events to celebrate all the reading that people are doing, and the, you know, writer spotlight, celebrating the writing that kids are doing. There's so many ways to think about that celebration and how wonderful that is to just be excited about what you're doing.
So we are so thankful that you guys all tuned in with us today, and our time is winding down. You want to put up, yeah,
our time's winding down. We just want to put up for you our email addresses. You do have our Twitter handles, but we want you to see how you can contact us if you have any questions or anything else. That's how you can reach us. And so at Northview Public Schools and Allendale Public Schools, let us know if there's anything that you know, we can answer for you, or we'd love to just hear from you. I can't wait to get on Twitter and see all the things that people are posting, so we're able to continue this conversation beyond today.
Teya and Julia, thank you so much. You had so many wonderful things to say, not only to administrators, but teachers as well, about being literacy leaders and empowering others. I wish we could clone you, but we can't. So the next best thing is that your message is on the minds of educational leaders, and that's going to be great things for teachers and for their kids as well. So thank you so much. Audience, thank you so much for your Twitter participation. Ladies, there's some great comments and questions and celebrations and, you know, amens, yeses, all that. So if anybody watching missed any part of this, it's going to be archived on the EdCollab page. So you can watch it anytime. Share it far and wide, please, because this message needs to be shared and spread. So thank you again, ladies. And I want to promote our next sessions. We have about 15-minute break until our next session. And let me give you a quick shot of what that looks like. Okay, let's see here. So we've got session 2 starting at noon. We've got 3 options: Kate Roberts, Trisha and Kim, and Deborah. So check back on the EdCollab page to find links to those videos. And thank you, ladies, again, for sharing your wonderful message.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thanks. It was a pleasure. It was super
And
fun.
thank you, Jessica. You've been great to help us along.
Thank you guys.
Everybody,
All right.
Yeah, happy Saturday.
You too. Okay.